The all-new multi-purpose Skills Hub is supporting young people seeking opportunities to build their dream businesses, gain decent work, and transform their lives. The Skills Hub offers incredible services for next to nothing. These services include Youth Enterprise Services, where we support you to start, grow, and sustain their businesses. Our incubation and acceleration services come with priority access to curated library, mentoring and coaching, as well as business advisory services at the Skills Hub. Youth Employment Services, preparing youth for the world of work, and innovative supportive services and facilities providing events and meeting spaces with customizable seating capacity of 5 to 65, co-working spaces for young entrepreneurs who may not have office space to operate, high-speed internet cafe,
more about you, sir. Hello, Priscilla.
Testing.
Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. I'm sure most of you have been served with snacks and water already. We have washrooms on our first floor here and also on the ground floor. You can always
is supporting young people seeking opportunities to build their dream businesses.
The ground floor as well. We render services such as trainings, we have co-working spaces, we have private office spaces. You can always walk in and use our services. We have various meeting rooms for trainings and workshops, and also for confidential meetings like partner meeting or board of directors meetings like that. You can always walk in here and use our services. We welcome your feedback to also build our future Skills Hub chat. We hope you enjoy the event. Thank you.
Thank you, Priscilla. And now, the reason why we have the man himself, the chief convener, the curator of Skills Hub Chat, Mr. Prosper Tony, would like to give us another warm welcome. You can never have enough welcomes.
Okay, all right. So, can we do something really interesting right now? Kindly pick your phone and then go to your Facebook or Twitter page if you're on any of those social media handles. Pick your phone, type Skills Hub by Yota, and this happens to our friends joining us live. Share the live feed to your personal pages as we continue the conversation. If you're on Twitter, go to @YotaRising and then share the feed to your personal page. I can see people busily doing it. So thank you. And if you're sharing a thought, kindly share with hashtag Skills Hub Chat. Hashtag Skills Hub Chat. So this year we're focused on 4 thematic areas. We want to have a conversation around personal development and careers for the first quarter. So next month, there will be different sets of speakers who will be around to talk around personal development and careers. In the second quarter, we are looking around management and youth engagement. So we'll be working with some of you who are already working in that space to come and share your experiences with our guests, our hosts that will be joining us. in the third quarter, we'll be talking around branding and fundraising. So if you're looking at starting a business or starting a venture, you need to put your business together, brand it really well to reach the right audience. This will be interesting for you within the third quarter. And then the last quarter, we're looking at skills acquisition and volunteerism, since we are wrapping up the year. So we have a lot packed for you for this year. We are going to go in a systematic way. So if you hear of us again, know that we are calling you to join us. Continue to ask us questions, continue to challenge us to do better. So on this note, I want to welcome you once again and enjoy and ask all the questions you have. Thank you.
The TV commercial. So this is for those of you who are watching us live. Those of us who are here, you can join live and you can watch TV. To be there. All right. So enjoy.
The all-new multi-level skills hub is supporting young people seeking opportunities to build their own businesses, gain decent work, and transform their lives. The Skills Hub offers incredible services for next to nothing. These services include youth enterprise services, where we support you to start, grow, and sustain their businesses. Our incubation and acceleration services come with priority access to creative library, mentoring and coaching, as well as business advisory services at the Skills Hub. Youth employment services, preparing youth to work and innovative supportive services and facilities providing events and meeting spaces with customizable seating capacity of 5 to 65. Co-working spaces for young entrepreneurs who may not have office space to operate. High-speed internet cafe, a copy center and others. Special packages for the most sought after entrepreneurship skills, employability skills, digital skills, life skills, and financial literacy for individuals and organizations. The Skills Hub is open to every young person who wants to learn their own jobs or contracts. It's time to take charge of the future. Now visit the Skills Hub at Toyota Building at American House Traffic Lights on the Lavalleche Road, East Legon.
I hope you enjoyed that. And we're going to be discussing what you saw. But I'd love to welcome our lovely guest. She's been sitting next to me for about 20 minutes now. And it's not comfortable to be sitting down and not quite sure what to do. I'm kind of fidgeting a little bit. It's not easy, and everyone is staring at you and you're wondering if you remember to cream your feet this morning. So please allow me to welcome our very, very honored guest. Hopefully you can hear me. Is the sound okay? All right. So with me today is a global programs manager with Meta, formerly Facebook, and a consummate professional with 15 plus years of experience in youth engagement, digital and managerial innovation, and entrepreneurship through leadership education. I said quite a bit, so honestly, all I had was 15 plus years. Now, let me look at his face again. 15 plus years. If you graduated at 24, 15,
If you graduated what at 24?
If you graduated.
So I think on our way in here, we're all asked to sign a form, and it had your name, your email, and it also had age demographics. I looked at the box where I checked it. It was empty up until my point, and so I realized that that may be helpful to contextualize. But I appreciate it. I get a lot of comments that I look like I'm in my 20s, and it's God's grace. So I appreciate it a lot.
Well, I'm jealous, that's all I can say. His current roles include USB Executive Education Faculty and Packing Africa podcast host, very fancy. The founder of 𝐓𝐇𝐄𝐒 Labs, we're going to speak about that a little bit more, and Eliu Gift Innovation Hub. Please tell me I got the name right.
You did.
Yes, all right. He is formerly of Google, YouTube, now available Africa, or now available, Impact Hub, and BBG. Ooh, impressive. All right. African Leadership, also formerly of the African Leadership University, he was a faculty. He was also with the World Economic Forum and multi-stakeholder management in government and non-governmental organizations. How does it feel to have your life's work summarized in 3 paragraphs like that?
Oh, I think it's helpful. I see it as touch points. So I think every time we communicate with people, you hope that people receive what you're saying in a certain way. And so hopefully the bio gives you an example of the things I can speak about, but also it gives you an example about the things I cannot speak about. So I can't speak about oceanography. I would love to, but I'm not an expert in that. So the bio allows maybe the conversation and context in which I can share my expertise.
All right. So I was saying to Emmanuel when we were upstairs in the little lounge, I was asking him, so I don't know if you had the chance to look at the really cool design that Prosper and his team put together, but the main description for him was founder of Eliu Gift Hub. Despite the beautiful and illustrious career that he's had with Facebook, YouTube, and some of which I can't even remember, the World Economic Forum, why was that number one? Why was that at the top versus obviously Meta and all of these other multinational organizations you worked with?
Absolutely. So it's a good observation, and it's a good way to also introduce Kwame. Now you can raise your hand, please. So he's a coordinator with me at Eliu Gift Hub. I think a lot of times, a lot of people define themselves by what we do, right? So I think in the introduction, she was asking people what you do, etc. Sometimes you meet people at a networking event, and I think it's the world over, people are like, oh, I'm a carpenter, I'm a plumber, not I do plumbing, not I'm into carpentry. And for me, I think I've always been involved in community engagement. I have a love for arts and crafts, and so last year I converted part of my home into a space that allows us to think about arts and crafts intentionally, to empower people in that space. So that industry is creative manufacturing, but it also is an umbrella organization for a lot of the trainings and things that I've done in every other part of my career. So at Google, we used to host YouTube huddles at iSpace, one of the very early spaces in Oslo. At Impact Hub, I used to host the apprentice program. And those are things that were not part of my job description or KPIs. And then Justice, he's also around. He's one of the directors for 𝐓𝐇𝐄𝐒 Labs. We've hosted a lot of training with Echo House across campuses and others. So for the first time, I've been able to take something that, no matter where I'm working at, I do and create a space that is an expression of that. So Eliu Gift Hub is almost like a love offering. It's like I've been able to structure things that I like to do regardless of where I'm at, and I've been able to get amazing people to join me on that journey. So it doesn't matter if I'm with a tech company today or I'm working for Ministry of Tourism and Culture. I think this is something that I'm most proud of and I'd carry with me. So that's best.
Are you feeling inspired? Or are you feeling a little jealous? It's okay to feel both. There was a time when it was a mixture of both, so it's okay. If you're feeling too, I hope this is me the next 15 years. I hope this conversation gives you some inspiration for moving forward. Today we're supposed to be talking about how to win in 2020 with your career. And over the past few years, due to the pandemic, we've seen a whole conversation around talent leaving the workforce. And I see about how employers are trying to encourage their employees to stay because people are just leaving. And so when I saw the topic, I thought it was interesting because I think there has been a huge transition and evolution also into a lot of entrepreneurial attempts by a lot of people who are moving away from traditional education and traditional rules and wanting to explore building things for themselves. So how do you win in 2022 in your career, whether it's you're walking down the entrepreneurial path or whether you believe that you are made to help others to achieve and to support others in building the world that we want to see? So, did you choose your career? And that was why I was asking you a lot of these questions. I ask people all the time and they don't understand. I'll ask them, what do you do? They will answer and I'll say, do you like it? And then there's a pause. Do you like it? And it's like, oh, sorry, what did you say? I said, do you like what you do? Because for most of us, I was lucky, but for most of us, we go to school, we graduate, then we get a job, and then we create a career around our first job. That's what tends to happen. So we studied engineering, but during national service, we went to work at so-and-so company, or we went to do we went into insurance. We were doing our national service and insurance company. And then we are in insurance and we get employed. And we decide, okay, let me do a course in insurance because you can see a clear progress, you can see a clear path, and you cannot for the life of you figure out how to go back into engineering. And so many of us are in careers because that was our first job. That was where we first landed, and then you create your space in where you first landed. So I always say, oh, do you like it? And then you start to hear the journeys of how so 15 years, but that is not where they originally meant to start. Did you mean to end up in the tech space?
A good question. It's a different question. So as you were saying it, I was thinking of like just my own background. So like studying and then coming out of school, and then one of the things I promised Prosper is that I'll be a straight shooter. So I'll say certain things that are maybe a bit controversial, or actually I'm not a controversial person at all. You can, most of the things that I say should be level-headed and resonate, but there are certain things I can tell people and they almost feel a bit uncomfortable, right? So before I go into my background and decisions for mine, I've always known that I would do things that challenge me. I've always known that I would do things. I think my father thought I would do things in tech, because when I was younger, anytime his laptop or any gadgets anything happened to anything electrical in the house, he would call me, right? And this is when I was like 8, 9, 10. So the first Game Boy, the heavy thing, he'd be like, no. At home I was called 𝐷𝐷𝐄𝐄. So he's like, 𝐷𝐷𝐄𝐄, there's something wrong with the TV. Like, and I'm like 9 or 10. Like, I know I can't do it, but I'd go through the process of turning it on, looking for the remote, little simple things, right? So I've always felt like, or he made me feel comfortable dealing with tech and not having the apprehension towards it. In terms of career choice, I've chosen different things at different times when I started university. So I went to University of Florida on a full scholarship. When I was being asked to declare what I wanted, I initially thought I wanted to do economics. And at the time, if I had picked journalism, I would have gotten additional money, but I didn't think I wanted to do journalism, which is weird, because when I graduated, I worked for Africa for a little bit, but I became a journalist for a community newspaper. I say this because I think the world of work, and this is the uncomfortable truth, what people will pay you for usually is what you're good at and you have competence. That's what they'll give you money for. That's what you've practiced and you've shown. So that usually is the job, right? The things that may make you happy or you're satisfied may be a passion project, and regardless of, or depends on how you're trained or what you invested in yourself, what you may enjoy doing may not be what people are willing to pay you money for. So if you come to terms with that uncomfortable truth, then you start to be open to either reinventing yourself through your professions, or you start to, like what I do now, you start to scope in the future, how do I align what I like to do with it being competent, and how is it in a space that people would pay me top dollar for it? So for me, the reason why tech makes sense is it's one of the spaces globally where I love living on the continent. I love living in Ghana, South Africa, Mauritius. I just love it. But it's one of the industries where I can show my competence, have global colleagues and still be able to live here, and also dictate a bit of the life I want, right? So right now I get to work remotely. There's some companies, because of maybe the pandemic, but prior to the pandemic, we were leading the charge on remote work, whether it was Zoom, conference calls. The Google Ghana office, for example, one of the nice things we did, if anybody's familiar with David Beckham, he's this very popular football player, good at free kicks, if you're Manchester United fans. Of which I am, but we are going through tough times. There was a small academy called Right to Dream, and Tom reached out to us at the time because he wanted to connect a lot of the Ghanaian academy students to David Beckham. So they had to come. Now it's easy for us to do these things, but we actually invited a lot of the academy kids from the camp base that they have at Right to Dream, and they had a conversation with David Beckham at our Google office. It was a conference call. And this was, almost 10 years ago. So those type of things gave us a lot of joy. For me, that sparked joy, right? So my kind of expertise in tech didn't always start off as, I'm going to start developing. It started off more as, I'm not afraid of tech. I'm not afraid to learn new things. And tech has served me because, one, it pays very well, and so I've built competence in that space. And maybe later on I can explain, I think what is becoming popular is realizing that most companies, one, are going to eventually be tech companies, and two, tech companies need non-techies in order to function. So for me, I'm a programs manager. I manage programs globally. I used to do it more regionally and locally. But if you have that competence, you can be hired in a tech company because they need to engage, they need to run stuff. Folks who are in HR, if you are innovative and you're thinking of human resources and people in an innovative way, there are tech companies that still need that competence, right? Creatives, tech companies need to be able to either share their policy, share their documentation and others in a way that others receive it. So if you're a creative, that is, and that's what I like about tech. The industry is so fast moving that the odds of you getting accepted are slim. So you have to be the best in class. And I like being the best in class. Maybe it's a United fans thing, I don't know. So yes, that's a long way to answer your simple question. Did I know I'd be in tech? I don't think so. I found myself in tech in different ways, and then I've enjoyed and continue to enjoy the challenge that working in tech affords me.
All right. Traditionally, we have questions and answers after, but I have moderated so many of these, and I know so well that there's never enough time to answer all of the questions. So I wanted to do almost a round-robin approach where we speak a little bit, but honestly, we are not more knowledgeable than you. So we speak a little bit, and then we also give the opportunity for you to speak, so that we do not have at the end where we are only able to get one question in. But I see a man in one of my favorite outfits of Basakali, and I feel in my spirit, like my spirit is speaking to yours, and my spirit is telling me that you have something to share. So I want to just pause here really briefly and ask, sir, what has your career journey been like? If I'm putting you on the spot, you can just wink at me, I can see, and you know, I'll dodge. But if you'll indulge us. Yes. Very nice, Basakali. Okay. Oh, there's another gentleman. Hello.
Yes, there are two of them, so I think they
all right.
Please, both of you can go ahead. Go ahead. Please introduce yourself and...
Okay. So, my name is Wisdom Senyo. Yeah.
Hello, Wisdom. Thank you for coming.
More or less like, I'm doing business.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think somewhere...
I invite you in front so that those of us who are joining virtually can see you as well.
I'm a KG1 boy in business. So I'm getting to learn more stuff, you know. So, okay, so my name is Wisdom Senyo. The fact is, somewhere last year, this man called Senyo Hosi, you know, I follow him on Facebook, and I saw a flyer on his page that they want to host a program over here, and then I followed the link and registered. But then when it was time for me to move from Tema and come here, something came up and I have to stay behind. So on that day, I couldn't make it. Then I had an email, from this center, and I was like, oh, this time around I'll register and be able to show up as well. So that is why I turned up today. I'm doing business, and the business. The fact is, I'm an optician. Yes, and then so I have my optical shop that I deal in prescription lenses and designer frames. So for now, that is what I do, and then I have a partnership business with a colleague, which is into construction as well. But then that one is still at the early stages. And now I said I want to get into photography. So somewhere last year, I went to do some courses on photography. And then lo and behold, just early this year, I have some camera from a cousin. So it means that in one way, I'm ready to zoom into that side as well. So I'm just hoping that things will fall in places for me. So today, I'm here to learn on the strategies and the way I can be able to use to win in 2022. So that is why I'm still on the way. So I'm here to learn today. So that's what I'm here. Yes, so that's the only thing I can be able to say. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Senor. So Senor is an optician by training, but he's also dabbling in construction, and now he's going into photography and videography. And that is very likely to be a lot of our stories. I studied journalism and communication. I was lucky. I love to talk. I love to say hi. I love to introduce myself. So very early on, I knew, much to the displeasure of my parents, but I was very stubborn and I was very hard-headed, and so I went on with my path. Along the way, I would say that like you in tech, you said how you can do so many different things. Even you do not have to be programming, you do not have to be coding. It was the same for me. I realized that I like communications, but even in communications, there were aspects of communications that I had zero interest in. And it's a very broad field. But as Senor was speaking, he spoke to something that I want to talk about a little bit. And you mentioned that passion versus profession, the dynamic of passion versus profession. I have been very lucky. My passion and my profession merged perfectly. So I am able to work in communications. I consult on projects for the EU, for UK aid, and I also run my own communications firm. So I have been very lucky. But for a lot of you, let's do a quick poll. Raise your hand if you are studying something, you're going to work in that industry, but your passion probably is on the other side of the field. Just wave your hand. You're studying medicine, you're studying law, you're studying visual arts, but your passion is on this side. So everyone is studying. Oh, hello. Thank you. All right, so we have one person. So everyone else is in school and they are studying what they want to do. What is this? Like, makes their heart beat. Oh, lucky you. All right. Well, so should I ask my question? Now my question feels redundant because I was going to ask the path to balancing the act of passion versus profession.
Sorry, no, I'm tickled because I think I think you're so surprised. One of the things that I hope, maybe two things I hope people get from today's session. One of them is that regardless of if you're looking at your profession or passion, you should always have a spirit of learning. So lifelong learning should be something that is almost a practice, like how people want you to be timely. They want you to be respectful. For Ghanaians, we say we're hospitable, we're nice, right? That's something that we take pride in. If you meet a Ghanaian and the person was rude for no reason, we kind of have social structures where people will be like, there was no need for you to do that, right? I think in addition to that, if we talk about careers and winning, you always have to have that thirst to be a lifelong learner. And I love what Wisdom shared and said, because I think we all understand and respect people when they say they're businessmen or into construction and others. And I think when he shared that, he almost took away some of the stigma or things around creative arts and photography and saying, if this is an optician and he's also interested in creative arts and photography and videography, there's validation in that. The other thing that I also like that he said is acknowledging that he may be competent in the previous business as a businessman, as an optician. He's gone to school for it. I was about to comment that his glasses look like mine. They're very designer. Yeah. I was really impressed with that. But then there's also like, he's saying, and I love the word, zooming into this new space. And so by showing up here, he himself recognizes the lifelong learning, or the learning aspect. We have to understand, one, the business of work, which, if I unpack a little bit and you allow me to do that, is once you're working in a corporate setting, in a setting where somebody takes their hard-earned money for you, their expectations. It's not a hobby, it's not maybe I deliver, it's not how may I show up. It's you saying that you are the best person that's worth that value that the person is paying you for. So there's a respect and a seriousness that applies to that. Passion is something that maybe, regardless of what situation you are in, you find yourself going back to it. You can't explain it. Some people think of it as gifts, right? And so the Eliu gift hub, or could be a space that way we want people to showcase your passion. The challenge is that the world is built so that all of us become workers. Nobody would stop you and say that you woke up today and you want to go and work. They're like, no, stop. We don't need workers. That's not how this world is built. But if you wake up and you say, I want to follow my passion, even the people who love you the most, your parents will be like, what does that mean? Right? Our parents, as a grown man, so I started working technically for a community newspaper when I was 16. There's never a time when I told my parents, hey, I'm going to work for the newspaper, that they stopped me. But if I said I'm going to follow my passion, whether it's in photography, and they'd be like, is this thing serious? Will it bring money? And those words are important because it frames that, right? So if you're working for the newspaper, the expectation is by 8 a.m. you've gone out, you're working, you're showing up, you're delivering. If it's passion, it's almost like arbitrary. Today I've decided I feel like, tomorrow I don't feel like. So to your question, when you ask about that, I think as a human being, we're physical, emotional, spiritual. There's more to us than the expectation of being work agents, right? So I told you I wanted to study economics. The economics of human capital and labor means that each of us, there's a value to what you bring to the table. There are hours that you can work. And my job as a manager or an industry or workforce is to maximize that out of you. That's how a lot of people live their lives, wake up during that as an economic agent. But that's very dreary, and that causes a lot of discomfort, mental, emotional, suicidal, all of that. Why? Because we're emotive. We love dance, we love culture, we love other spaces. So for you to be fully functional, you need to feed the things that keep you alive, the things that you enjoy, the things that you're passionate about. That's what, in our opinion, and there are lots of studies around this, then recharges you to be a better worker. I've known people who started off with their passion. So a good example, people who are in love with pets, their passion is to be around animals. And once it becomes a career choice and they work, some of them fall out of love with that work. Because it's no longer arbitrary, or people who, I don't think people have seen that happen as much, whether it's in acting or painting. But for those in the creative space in Ghana, like when you look at our economic plan, there isn't as much attention to theater and creative as much as there is to, if you're an accountant, this is how much you're paid. If you're a banker, this is how much you're paid, right? So a lot of the people in the creative space, and they did it out of passion. But I've seen people who, now that you're being hired and you're being told that for 360 days in the year, you're supposed to be acting. This is the work output you want. Some people fall out of passion. Because now the amount of work you're supposed to bring to it, that discipline to it, it's no longer arbitrary. It's an expectation. So that's how I answer your question about passion to almost our profession, right? For me, I've reached a space where I keenly know what I'm good at and I can get paid for. But I also know the things that recharge me and allow me to present the best self. And I think that tension you should explore some more. And not everything that you're passionate about should probably be your profession. And then when you are working in a space that you're really good at it, you should find ways in which things that you love, you can still bring it to bear at your workplace.
Not every passion has to pay. interesting that you say that, because there was a post I saw about that, right? And so we had a very interesting, and I see that very common now. A young lady that I mentor called me and said, oh, she wanted to drop out of the university and start a business. Very exciting, very courageous, very bold. I was all for it. But what was confusing to me was, she said to me, well, because I don't want an 8 to 5. And I asked her, I don't know when it happened that an 8 to 5 has become such a horrible, terrifying, scary, negative phrase. Because right now, if you're not an entrepreneur, if you're not a business owner, if you're not doing your own thing, if you're not following your dream and your passion, then there's something wrong with you. And I explained to her that we need to, I don't know how it happened. There's honor in having a job. And if everyone was an entrepreneur, what would we do in this country? And we have, and things like entrepreneurs get lost. Still supporting others, still contributing your value, your wisdom, your knowledge, your experience in building. And I've noticed entrepreneurship becoming almost selfish. I'd much rather do my own thing and fail than to spend my time and to give my gift to someone else. That is how people now frame it. Why should I spend my youth and my energy and my talent contributing to someone else's success that is not going to be under my name? So that's how I see a lot of people starting to think about 8 to 5. Not as the place where I learn how business works, how customer relations work, how managing people works, how global factors, economic factors, environmental factors affect a business, how to make personal decisions, how to be responsible, basic things like SNIT and taxes. Basic things like, and I asked her, okay, so how do you do the registration? I'll start on Instagram, and then I said, well, now, even if it's an Instagram business, it's still being taxed. So all of these little dynamics. And so for me, I believe in passion, and like he said, your passion should fuel you, and I will never discourage anyone from being an entrepreneur, but I am looking forward to the disillusionment of 8 to 5 being a failure, or the fact that you are working for someone means that you are not hot, you are not serious, you are not on fire, you are not passionate enough. Now, speaking about someone who has managed to create the perfect balance, I'd like to welcome our second speaker for today in the person of Aisha. If we can welcome her with a round of applause. Aisha thrives on working to make the world a better place for women. Although she graduated in business administration accounting, her true passion and dedication lies in ensuring girls around the world are provided with the guidance and resources that help them identify their true purpose and calling to reach their full potential. She founded Power to Girls Foundation. Hi, girl. A non-profit organization to offer young girls the mentors and role models that were absent during her own youth. As an award-winning entrepreneur, My Power app, the first social connection app for girls to access mentorship and a safe online space, is her latest initiative, a next step in empowering women and girls around the world. Isn't it exciting how all of our speakers today are choosing to introduce themselves via their passion versus via their profession? That is rare. I think it's the coolest thing. Welcome, Aisha.
Thank you.
It's wonderful to see you. Always rocking the hair. It's gorgeous. So we've just been talking about carving the perfect career path for ourselves in 2022. Now, you also have a very exciting career, and you have managed to work on your passion alongside. Is it still alongside, or is it now full-time?
It's now full-time.
Oh, congratulations.
I didn't always start out as full-time one.
How did you start out?
Well, I actually had a evening. And thank you so much for having me here. So I actually always refer to myself as the accidental entrepreneur. because I didn't set out to be an entrepreneur. I was, I had a very clear path for myself: go to school, find work, be comfortable, be stable. But then I think I found myself in spaces that really challenged me to do more. And because I was personally not satisfied with the way that things were. And I think that's how Power to Girls started. But even when I started Power to Girls, I was still working for other people. And I kind of like heard you speaking earlier around, there's this glorification of entrepreneurship, definitely. There is, but then there's also power in you can still follow your passion and still work for someone else, right? And for me, that was really what it was. So when I was looking for opportunities, or I was looking for jobs, I was looking for jobs that aligned with the things that I cared about. In spaces that I knew that even though I'm, supporting someone else's dream, it's still fueling the things that I want to do and fueling my personal passion. So yeah, that's really how it went. And then when it just became a bit too challenging to manage, other people. I wouldn't necessarily call it other people's career because you're getting paid, so it's still your work. It just became a bit challenging because we were scaling rapidly and it just didn't make sense. All of those different things, so I decided I was going to go full time, and I've not looked back since. Well, actually, that's a lot. Like, why am I doing this? It's all worth it.
I love what you said right now, that even when you're working for others, you can still fuel your passion by finding work that aligns with your personal vision and personal goals. I think that's powerful. Please hashtag that, Prosper. All right, so I'm going to skip the set of questions that I had because I think it's more important to answer your questions. So you shared a couple of questions with us, and I think that let's rather talk about that. That is why we're here. So this one is very interesting. And I think I'll direct this to you, Emmanuel, because I know you manage people and work to get the most out of them. So the question is, how do you influence people to get work done?
That's so interesting. Well, welcome, Aisha. It's good to see you. I had one thought about your comments on entrepreneurship and passion that I wanted to share. It's an uncomfortable truth, but I think one of the things that maybe people don't get enough credit for is we're all motivated by incentives. So if there's an incentive for you to work for somebody that you feel like will be rewarding of your time, you would appreciate it. So the idea of, in the early days, because how America was built or how Germany and others were built, entrepreneurs were frowned upon in the early days. They were seen as the quacks and others because there was enough resources to go around, and then the government was branding it in a way that you could be absorbed. So the early days in the 50s, 60s and others, there were certain roles that Gold Coast needed, Ghana needed, and so you deciding to go your own routes didn't make much sense. There was very few opportunities for that. I think now we have the reverse. The incentive for all of us to be expectant that we would make it on the single spine salary is unrealistic. So this idea of 8 to 5 being frowned upon is intentional. A lot of that narrative is intentional because we need people who can expand kind of like the job pool and market. So for me, one thing, if you're watching and you're listening, as a young person, try to read history and try to look at trends so that when people who are whether in charge of things or have an agenda and they share stuff, you understand the context in which it's being shared. So the apprehension on having a 9 to 5, the context for the apprehension is that most people are not being paid well, or they're not being paid, compensated or incentivized based on what they feel like was a lifelong commitment to that role or job, right? And there's so much competition. So the opportunity cost for that 9 to 5 is being verbalized as, I don't want to be stuck in a place with this set of competence where I'm not rewarded. Similarly, entrepreneurship for a while was incredibly difficult because it meant that you're experimenting and testing, and so people have to kind of fund you and hope that one of the experiments that you're doing is going to work. Really, those of us who are entrepreneurs, we're gamblers. We're gambling with ideas, we're gambling with limited resources, and most of the time, the consequence of failure is disgrace, embarrassment, and people looking at you like you're not serious because you started off.
I told you so.
Right. so there is a high risk, but also a high reward. And so now the narrative is, oh, everybody should do it. We should stop criticizing people who are gambling, taking a chance, and others. So just context, it is an uncomfortable truth. If you want to go into that, make sure that you look at the trends and understand the agenda around narrative setting. I also answer the question of manager and management. I think people has been an extension of college. My minor was in leadership and so right. Editorial board, all of these things. Then into college, where I was director for campus involvement at a university that had 50,000 students. Why did I put myself in those situations? Because when you're studying leadership, situational leadership is everything. You can read the theory, but when you have people who are following you who say that, hey, we don't want to follow you anymore. It's not going to be textbooks that you read and you say to them. It's not going to be Eisenhower, or it's not going to be Martin Luther King and say that, oh,
I have a dream.
Absolutely. It's going to be situational. And in those moments, you're going to ask yourself, what tools do you have? And she rightly said that, to influence success, right? So an extension of that, I did my master's at Wits Business School, and management really is understanding people, but also understanding what incentives to help the people that you are responsible for. So I don't even see it as I manage people. It's almost like I'm responsible and I'm co-sharing in the outcomes. And so a good manager understands a good mix of introducing what the deterrence is. So a deterrent or a punishment is, for the very extreme, you lose your job and then you work your way down. Suspension, compensation removal, some of it could be like reprimand and others. Those are tools that you have within that management pool. And then incentives go from the bare minimum acknowledgement, right? So one of the things that I do on a weekly basis, which I'd also share, because even though I manage 5 regions in my current role, I also feel like I have to manage the people ahead who are over me, because they don't understand the African context and others. So one of the tools I do is, when somebody does something that I feel like is supportive or is right, I share, hey, this is something that you did as my manager or as my boss or somebody ahead that sparked joy for me, right? So it's acknowledging that. So I think the tools I use are more empathetic and maybe more acknowledging emotional intelligence, because I've dealt with so many people. I've been in Rotary Ghana first, and now Rotary Club of Johannesburg for almost 10 years. In Rotary, you can't force somebody to come and donate to a borehole. You can't force somebody to show up for a meeting on time, right? But if you don't show up on time, you've wasted my time. If we don't donate, the borehole doesn't get done. And so for those of you trying to understand how to become a good manager, if that's your aspiration, to lead people, you need to both understand how to lead in a space where you have power and authority, but you also have to understand how to lead in a space where you inspire trust and responsibility. And those things work hand in hand, both in your passion projects, but also for me in the capacity I work professionally as well.
Can I add something to that?
Yes, please.
I think just adding to what Emmanuel was saying, leadership style is, and I love that you talk about empathy, because a lot of leaders do not lead with empathy, or not lead with empathy for that matter. But then once you're able to actually understand what your leadership style is, and understanding that the people that you are working with, and I say that intentionally, the people that you're working with, not the people that are working for you, but the people that you're working with, that you're in charge of, also are coming from different environments, different experience. And if you're not able to understand that your role is not for you to impose what you want onto them, but then creating a space that inspires them to be their best selves. I think for me, that's one of the key things, because if you go into spaces thinking that you're a lord over everyone there, that means you're not necessarily giving people the opportunity to learn. You're also not giving them the opportunity to express themselves the way that they know how, or the way that they should. So I absolutely love the fact that you talked about empathy, but then also it comes back to you. So what is your leadership style? How do you communicate when the person that you're working with says something or does something that is not what you expected, how do you inspire them to be better? And then I'm also going to throw something in there in the sense that, like, do you lead with the anticipation that the person that you are working with, the person that is in that space, that team that is created, do you create opportunities for them to surpass you? Or is it kind of like, oh no, this is where you're supposed to be, you're supposed to be stuck here, and that's that, like, this is your role, and this is my role, and there's no opportunity for growth. So I think it's also in all those little things as well. And there's something that a lot of folks say is that, like, leaders create more leaders, right? A leader is a servant. And as uncomfortable as that might sound, you always have to understand that whatever your team does reflects back on you. Even if one person on your team does something, you're not going to say, like, for example, Emmanuel will not go back to his, the people that are over him and say, oh, this person that did it. No, he's going to say, actually, my team takes full responsibility for that. That's what a leader is. So I think it's also important for you to understand what kind of leader you are and what kind of leader you want to become in order for you to be able to effectively manage other people.
I feel a little bit lost for words because there's so much being shared. And I just want to add that be gentle with yourself.
Yeah.
My first time managing people, I would go to bed and I would think back through the day and be so mad at myself for things that I said, the things that I thought I should have said, things that I should have done. And we can be really hard on ourselves, especially when you are starting a business, when it's hard or when you are tired and when you want to give up, or you will lose your temper, you will lose your cool, you will cry, you will be frustrated, your favorite employee will leave you in the middle of the project that is the biggest of your entire life.
And I think that actually hurts more than anything.
Yes.
That really hurts. When, there's not, let's say, one person, like, you know what, this is that person. Like, I know for a fact, if I'm not here,
This is, and you're like, actually, I gotta go. And you're like, what did I do? Was I not enough? But yeah, I just want to, I think that.
Yeah, no, I've heard that story before. It's never happened to me before.
Boy, you're in for a treat.
But I think not necessarily because I think I'm special or I don't think I've had an instance, right? One of the things, and I agree with you, I think I'm a little OCD, so I can almost replay every conversation I have with people in a work environment. So I'm constantly like self-reflective, right? But one of the things that I always say is like, I also think of myself in a way that, like, I like soft life. I like to have, like, I wake up not thinking, oh, I'm a good manager, so I'm the one that is going to make sure that everybody goes by the protocol and books in order, right? I wake up having the same resistance to work and to the responsibility of work that the people that work for me have, right? I think maybe the difference is that I try to have weekly checkpoints and softening that for myself and those, because then that aspect of me not feeling like being a manager is who I am, because I also feel like in different roles somebody's managing me, whether it's in a volunteer project or others. So then it allows me to quickly go back and then for those who I'm responsible for to have that check and balance, right? So Kwamina is here. We're adding a new lady to our team, and one of the things that I'm adding into that is the onboarding aspect. And so, like, you meet someone, they're like, hey, I want to work with you. When you're getting into, like, the interview phase, they say all the right things. And then one of the biggest things that I like these days is that because of YouTube and videos, people can Google what are the 5 most important things to say at an interview to land the job. Hello. And I love it. I've done it before. I've researched, and I love people who've done the research. So they, 𝐷𝐄𝐒𝐄𝐑𝐄. Yeah, I'm like, stop. So, okay, cool. I did the same thing to get my role, right? And once I got the role, then I started to show that expertise. The one where that she said that gingered me was like, these are the ways that I can add value. Allah. Which employer doesn't like that one? I was like, very good.
That's good.
And so in my professional world, I'm constantly being challenged to do that, right? Because internally, one of the questions we ask is, how do the person you're working with feel supported?
Yeah.
And that's a very high metric. So even before she started, I created a document of the things that we'll be working on and others. Then I said, okay, let me test this beyond what you can research. Based on the 3 things we're working on, in the next 3 to 5 months, how can you see yourself in verbs and action words adding value? Because based on those action words, then we can sign an agreement. Then on a monthly basis, it's not just what I asked to do, it's what you proposed you can do. Then we can reflect on it, right? What that also does is that I can also anticipate what you're trying to do, and if it doesn't meet my metric, I can anticipate ways to support you. Because just like how in my professional world, I need to think of all the people that I feel supported in my passion, other that I'm responsible for, I also need to ask myself, how did I make them feel supported in the work they do for me? So that's what I was saying. Like, I think because I have that constant tension of working for others and myself and others, I try to be reflective in real time and implementing that.
All right. So
do you need water?
I do. I do. I want to pause. I want to ask 2 last questions and pause because I feel like you are the reason why we're here. I want to give enough time for you all to ask questions. So we're going to circle back and legit answer the question for today in 2 ways. How do I win in my career in 2022? So how do I win in my career if I am going my own route as an entrepreneur, starting my own business, running my own thing, doing my own thing? How do I win in my career if I want to find a job, if I want to get to the program manager level at Meta, or if I want to join Ministry of Energy when I finish my national service? So let's do the 2. How do I win as an entrepreneur? How do I win? I don't want to say traditional. How do I win that other way? In employment, in gainful employment, not for yourself. So Aisha, you can answer both, or you can take one on, and then Emmanuel. Then we'll open the floor.
So this is something that you hear me say all the time, and like I feel like it's the basis of everything that you do is staying true to yourself. Knowing who you are, knowing what your skills are, knowing what your capabilities are, but really taking time to reflect on yourself allows for you to show up in places with confidence, with, style, whatever your personal style is, and honestly with confidence, and the skills and the abilities that you have shine through. And the reason why I always go back to self is because I feel like a lot of times, we go into places, you're starting a business, and the first thing that you're thinking about is what is your mission statement, what is the vision, what is all those things. We barely do that for ourselves, and I think that's really important for you to actually reflect and ask yourself, what do I stand for? What do I represent? What are my values? So for me, I have values that I put down. So anytime I want to do something, if it's starting a business, if it's even, going after a consultancy, or putting policies together, whatever it is that I'm doing, I'm always asking myself, how does this feed into my personal values? How does this feed into the plans that I have for myself? And if it's not in alignment, then it's easier for me to say no. I share this because I think it's important that as you are navigating the world, or you're navigating whatever space that you find yourself in, figuring out for yourself who you are, figuring out what you, and I hate to even use this statement, but for lack of a better statement, figure out what you bring to the table. Figure out how you add value, be it in the world or in the workplace, and then take it from there. Because when you take the time out to identify for yourself and to map out for yourself what you want to achieve, how you want to add value, how you want to show up in places, trust me, your entire demeanor changes. Because now you walk into a place knowing that, listen, in as much as I need you, you need me too. And together, we can make the world a better place if that is what we want to do. So it always, for me, comes back to self. And I'm big on self-reflections, and I'm big on, sharing that aspect, because I think that is the part of entrepreneurship, or that's the part of life that we never talk about. We never talk about the accountability aspect and how we as individuals play a role in everything that happens in our life. The last thing that I also share is this, and I agree with Emmanuel when he says, soft life, take care of your mental health. In all of your searching and in all of your quest for success and your quest for wealth or whatever it is, don't forget to take care of yourself. Because there's something that I have seen and I've witnessed in different areas or in different parts of my life where, and I started adapting this mentality at a very early stage, where let's say you are running for the bus, right? And the bus driver sees you coming and then he just kind of drives off. And you're standing there and you're thinking, oh my goodness, my boss is gonna kill me, this is gonna happen, da 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 da. You're thinking about all of those different things. And then there's also a flip side to that, let's say, God forbid, you get into the bus driver is driving really fast, and then you get into an accident, right? Or let's say you slept in or whatever happened, and you get into an accident. The same day or the next day, your boss is going to replace you. You are valuable. And you have to start taking care of yourself, understanding that you are a valuable human being. So your mental health, your well-being should surpass anything and everything. And that is one thing that I think is really important for people to understand, because entrepreneurship is hard AF. Working for someone else is hard AF. Life in itself is hard AF. So if you're not taking care of yourself, then what exactly are you working for? Right? So that's all I'll get. If you don't take anything from anything that I said, take care of yourself, stay true to yourself, remember what you stand for, remember what your values are, because at the end of the day, that's all you got.
Please, round of applause. I want to clap, so I want this. And Emmanuel, before you speak, I hate adding on to what people say, because I feel like what they say is enough. But as you were speaking, the reason why what she's saying is also so important is because if you are like me, where every time you have to take a decision about taking on a new job or taking on a new consultancy, you have to do a pros and cons list and you have to think it through. Staying true to yourself and prioritizing your well-being makes it very easy for you to make key life decisions, because it's very easy to see a job opportunity that is offering you 20,000 Ghana cedis and say that this job I am not going to stay true to myself, because the nature of this role requires me to do A, B, C, D, and it doesn't align with my values. I know for a fact that this is going to cost me 5 months of travel, which is going to deprive me from spending time in building, say, for example, my passion projects. And so because of this, I can let this go. And because of this, I can say that this job is only going to pay me 2,500 cedis, but it's going to give me the flexibility to do my passion project. It's going to give me enough time to take care of my mom who has cancer. And so I will choose the job that is paying me 2,500 over 25,000, because overall it is the right fit for me. 2 years down the line, it might not be the right fit. And when you do that, when people say, "Shee, you slack, or you made a mistake," you can confidently smile.
Yeah.
You can confidently smile and say, "I did not. I'm in a place in my life right now where this is where I need to be." It might look like this to you. It might look like I need to be running for president right now. And I'm telling you that running for president right now, so everybody else in the world can make you feel like a fool, but you feel very comfortable and you feel very at peace. Yep. Sometimes it is very difficult to make those decisions because you are not quite clear on your own purpose. And so, it's a lot of money, or it allows me to do this, or it allows me to do that. So you get confused and you take a decision and you are not quite sure. So as you were speaking, when I started doing that, I realized that saying yes and no to things became very easy. But now, over to you, Emmanuel. 2022. We want to start a successful career as an entrepreneur or as an employee, as an entrepreneur. Let's do that. I feel like I don't want any negative connotations around employment this evening, right? So how do we win?
The reason why I'm so proud, you should come closer this so I can give you the secret ingredients. It's like, it's put into this portion. It's like you shake it 3 times, you rub on it with a wish, and then it shows up and helps. No, actually, I'll share a couple of like things that I've realized in terms of the world. I try.
Hello? All right.
All right, testing. Aha. So if you come closer, those of you online as well, I think there are a couple of things. The first one, I'm thinking of maybe 3 big ones. The first one, for you to excel in the world of work, where paying you, honestly, is for you to the best at what you're doing. So if you decide that you want to be the one that makes math sets, your measurements should be effing great. Like nobody will buy a math set that today the ruler is 5 inches, tomorrow the ruler is 7 inches. It sounds like a very weird example, but for a lot of us, if you take your life efforts at work from day 1 in January through December, sometimes you give 2 inches of a ruler effort at work, sometimes you give 5 inches of a ruler effort at work. So for those of us who work at these global companies where they mark your attendance, mark contributions, there are different ways of managing contributions, whether it's KPIs, internal or not, right? Key performance, reviews, etc. When you bring it to the global level, nobody cares about how good you look, nobody cares about whether ECG decided to shut down. Nobody cares about whether you parked at Alliance Française and somebody stole your laptop. This was me like maybe 8 years ago. Nobody cares. If you wake up in the morning and you have a meeting with Singapore and the people in Singapore woke up to speak with you, unless there was a war in your house, you're going to be spoken to. And the same thing when the end of the month happens, unless there's a war in my company, I'll be paid. So that's number one. You have to be the best in class to work with the best in class. And you know yourself, if you're not, the interview process would weed you out. And even for those of us who get in, you find out the people who didn't get in, and they are similar. And they were probably small margins. And that's what I was speaking about the second hack. So for most of us, this is the second time that I'm working for a tech company. It's incredibly hard to get into the one time and then to do it again. This is a hack. It might have something to do with who you are, it might not. But those who have learned this hack properly, they typically are the ones that succeed. And for those who have competence, it's that little advantage. Some people look at it as a bad word. Some people look at it differently. Marketing. How do you market who you are so that I know what you can do, right? Marketing. So when I came here, I think Kwame and I were sitting together with Emelia, and Emelia was like, hey, I'd like to know more about you. Kwame was shocked. He was like, really? I was like, yes. That's an opportunity for me to market, right? Prosper knows who I am, and the first time we met, it was an interview at Impact Hub Accra. Before he walked in, he knew who I was, what we were going to do, because at the time, I'd marketed myself enough for him to come through. When you're going for job interviews, you probably apply, you send an email, you write a letter, you put it in an envelope, you ship it off, and then you wait for them to call you. Do you know what I do? I do research. Who works at the company? Who's their HR? Are they in my network? Are they on LinkedIn? If I check them on Facebook, would I see them? If I go to a conference and it's in my topic area, who am I on a panel with? Who am I speaking to? Have I met them before? Is there a way for me to connect with them? So one of the hacks within that marketing. It's not necessarily that you're going to be on a billboard and say that you are XYZ. No, that's blatant, that is God, that's crass for some things. It works for others. But for your personal marketing, that's not what I'm speaking about. For personal marketing is how do you engage with the touch points, the people who are in that organization, the people that are working on that project, the people who are going to be team members, so that before you speak your first word, they have an understanding of who you are. They feel comfortable, and there's at least, at minimum, a familiarity. It's not there that I'm going to sit down and then, hi, my name is Emmanuel, I'm from Ghana. No. That's not the point, right? So that's the most important. Those are the two things. The third one, and I think for a lot of us, I think if you accept this, you look at life differently. I look at life as a series of failures, and then by God's grace, you win. I look at life as a series of failures, and then by God's grace, you win. So if you're coming here thinking, how do I win? And you put all your eggs in that basket of one opportunity, one chance, one day there you go. That's, in my opinion, part of the problem with the Ghana team now. Then you've already failed because you're looking for all the things to go right in that one instance for you to become successful. If you come into this year humbly with propositions, these are things that I'm proposing, most of them would fail, right? But when they do, these are the opportunities that I'll carry on. And I don't know which opportunity that would be. Your approach to things is a bit different. The approach, and almost for a lot of people who are trying to be in tech space or work for a company like Facebook, Meta, TikTok, etc., you no longer approach the interview like they owe you the job. You approach the interview experience, you preparing for that job, as an opportunity for you to learn. And it's not saying that you should go expecting that you won't get anything. Have confidence, have audacity, know that you're chosen, know that you're called. But when you shift that perspective of this one chance for this year, this 1 year that I win, it gives you almost like a global or a panoramic view. So for me, this year is one of many in a decade, or one of many in a lifetime. So if I put out my proposals and this year didn't work, like the year the pandemic hit, I don't think I'm a failure. I don't think that year was a failure. I look at that year as, okay, these were proposals that didn't work, but there's a learning opportunity. So those are the 3 hacks that I have for you. Be the best at whatever field you want to be. That's important, because that's what would make somebody give you the hard-earned money. Market yourself. Nobody would tell you, and I learned this in college. Actually, per sec before college, I was in the same dorm with Michael BP and Riza Abdullah, and both of them were on the math and science quiz. Humble guys. We love our culture. We're very quiet. We don't loud it, right? But at the same time, I know people who were not as good as them. And when they went outside of the country, they presented themselves. Yes, they had some competence, but they had much bigger opportunities. So you can see that amongst us, we can be twins. But if others don't know that this twin can deliver this, the opportunities that's given to one is far less. That's the type of marketing you need to have for yourself. And then also approach life that it's a series of failures. So you're learning. It's not supposed to be meant for you to be getting accolades. If every day you woke up, somebody gave you an award, then what was the point? So that changes your perspective. And that way, you're kinder to yourself when things don't go right. You're kinder to your team when they don't. It allows you to think of things over the long term and not internalize challenges, because that's what life is really about. Thank you.
I think you forgot one. Networking. I know, but you see, like, there's branding yourself, and then there's also kind of like meeting other people and like putting yourself in positions that allows for you to meet other people. And I think like events like this and opportunities like this are always a really good opportunity to know who's in the room and see who's in the room. Because like when events are marketed, you only know about like the speakers, right? But the true value is in the person that is sitting next to you. So I just also wanted wanted to add that part in that, like, networking, like talking to people, seeing who's beside you, seeing what they're up to, and not being afraid of like talking about the things that you're doing or the things that you're working on. I know, like, we can be a very we have a very superstitious culture where we can be very secretive. But if, for example, Emmanuel doesn't know what I'm doing or what I'm working on, how will Emmanuel be able to connect me to opportunities? You get what I'm saying? And I've seen that happen where, like, sometimes I just tell someone, oh, this is one thing, and like, oh my goodness, I have the perfect person for you to speak to. So don't be afraid to share the things that you're working on, especially for those of you that are entrepreneurs or are thinking of, starting businesses or starting, services, products, whatever it may be. Don't be afraid to talk about yourself, and don't be afraid to talk about what you're working on. So I just wanted to add that piece as well.
And we're done. So I would like to hand over, but as we're talking about, don't be afraid to talk about yourself. Don't be afraid to listen as well. Aisha, I think this is probably the third or fourth forum I've met you on, but despite that, I always like to ask, tell me about yourself. Because yes, everything is on Facebook and LinkedIn, but people almost never tell you what is on their LinkedIn profile when you genuinely ask, tell me about yourself. Unless the person is still finding their feet, they're not going to tell you about the list of credentials and jobs and awards that you see on their LinkedIn profile. They will tell you about their interests, their passions, how their day went, what they did. And so if you are looking for different outputs, you have to start asking different questions. And the over-reliance on technology to solve all our problems, I mean, anyone who knows me knows that I'm not a big techie, even though ironically, I've ended up in the space quite a bit. But I wanted to open the floor. Prosper was going to help me with the mic. I don't see him. We don't have time. So I'm going to do it myself. Please, questions. Chief sanitizer for today. Please, no offense to anyone. We will sanitize and then we'll give you the microphone because we are sharing. So please, no offense. Let me wear a mask since I'm walking around. Oh, you don't have to stand. Don't worry. No issues. I just come to. Oh, you have to come to the front. All right, lucky me. I get to sit. I think they want to capture you for our virtual audience.
Thank you, and good evening to everyone. Please don't mind my tone, Tra. I bet you next time we are meeting here, I'll come with my ride. This is the result of a tra. Okay, so my name is Brigitta. I'm a beneficiary of YOTA program from Pobiman. Yeah, so I don't know whether it's a question or a contribution. Okay, so it goes like this. I work with Gamor Municipal Assembly. I'm at the Revenue Department, and then they pay us based on salary and commission as well. And I do my personal stuff thanks to YOTA. I learned POP sealing. So that was, we just wrote our exam somewhere December. So whilst we were still on the field to do our attachments and then our final professional training, I started doing my own work. Start taking estimates. Before I wrote my exams, thank you. So was the person I was after I finished the work, I ran lost. Yes, I did. I cried that day. I cried and my husband was like, you can't do this thing. So why did you force yourself? But I had another contract and I was so brave. And what I do is, because it's a POP stuff you cannot do on your own, I gathered Togolese guys. I do speak a bit of Togo, so I do gather them. So when I get the job and it's awarded to me, I just call them, because I know how to do the estimate and know exactly the amount of materials that we use. I ask, how much will you charge for a square meter? So we bargain on that. Then I go. So the second one was okay, and I'm still working. I do wear my Yota gave us materials, so I would do wear it. Then I go to uncompleted sites or buildings. Then I write my name, POP woman, my number, and all this stuff. And they always call me. They call me. So, but about my work at the Gan Municipal Assembly, Gan West Municipal Assembly, I was working then. I was called. You see, they called my external auditors came to audit our this year. So I was at home and they called me that I have 10 minutes to get to the office. From my house to the office is like 20 minutes. So I had no option than to pick a quarter bottle. So that was a motorcycle I did. And when we got to, I don't know whether if you know Amasaman at Chiama Junction Road. I had an accident there.
Sweetheart, I'm so sorry to catch you. I hate doing that. But because you want to give others the opportunity, do you think you can wrap up in 1 minute?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So I had an accident and I'm still recovering. I had it from my brain. So it was a mild brain, but I have recovered. But part of this thing is still recovering. So I was rushed to the hospital, and my boss came to the hospital and was like, Bridget, you were supposed to tell her that you cannot make it within 10 minutes. But again, she was the one who gave me the pressure. He told me, Senkauya, can I replace you at that time? So when you were talking about being careful to yourself or take care of yourself, I was nodding I shouted, yes. So it was like, I really liked it when you mentioned it. And I want to encourage all of us, especially my Yota, that they should focus on what they learned. It really helped me. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a Yota testimonial right there.
Please don't be afraid to charge. I beg you. Please charge. Okay.
The gentleman in front.
Okay. My name is Kwamina, and I have a question for both Aisha and Gamor. So Gamor made a statement that life is basically a series of failures, and then by God's grace, you win at something. So my question is, how do you still maintain motivation and still have the energy to? How did you guys personally do it, to still keep on trying even when you previously failed at something? Because sometimes when you fail at something, you just ask yourself that, so what I'm about to do, what if I just fail? What if I just waste my time? So my question is, how do you, or what advice would you give to the youth that, even if you fail at something, this is what you do so that you can still have full steam to still continue what you want to try out?
All right.
It comes from your no, but I appreciate your comment. A lot of love. I think important, and I think that luckily for me, I had people who encouraged me. So talking about my father saying you can fix things, what can a 10-year-old do for a TV or a laptop? And so having that you can keep trying, because that's what it always really, that lesson that my father shared, what I took away from it, right? But also listening to spoke, right? And I think maybe this hasn't come up as much as how do people work at these global tech companies. The difficult thing is once you get in there, how do you succeed in a place where nobody you're working with looks like you, speaks like you, or has the same challenges that you do? Right? And in those kind of spaces, it's no longer can you also do the work. It's a lot of internal politics. It's a lot of intelligence. And there are times when some of us are not successful because you don't even know the factors in which they're using. Is having a small group of people who their opinions mean a lot to me. So it started with my parents and my sisters. They've seen me grow up. And they are my biggest cheerleaders. Like, the type of audacity I have, even if I've mellowed for you, if you see me in my element, you can't tell me nothing. I'm like, really, you can't tell me nothing. And that's how I've been raised to an extent, right? And so that shows in how I present myself. Not that you can't give me feedback or I can't improve. I have people who are close enough near me that they are the ones that constantly affirm what I do. And I think for all of us in this life, you need that. That's just for you and your well-being, not to do with work, not to do with 2020, or not to do with winning. Just as a human being, those words of affirmation. And that's why a lot of people enjoy Songs of Solomon. That's why we do praise. And I think that's why, in my opinion, a lot of people think that heaven is going to be a place where there's a lot of praise and worship. There's affirmation in that. Right? So if you're religious, that's how that makes sense in my head. And that's why I look forward to being in heaven. I don't want any discouragement. You can't tell me about my clothes. If you saw my trousers has tear, I don't want to know. Tell me how it's a new fashion sense. That's it. That's what I look forward to, right? So that's one. Then practically to one of the things that I try to do is I don't look at things in the same way as everybody does, right? So one of the things I learned very early in life is that if most of the time we're failing, there are odds of success and failure. So if you're into stats, my odds of success is if there are 10 things that I try out for, 2 nebefa. Yep. The Lotto doctor, 2. That's 20%. Yeah, 2 sure. And so what I started to do over time was, if I can, I'll do 100. That means 20 or even 50. So you are doing your 10, no? La, woke up, you gave 10%, 20%. I'm giving 50. And at that time, you'd see that even if it's my 2 show, I have more odds of success coming my way because I'm trying more. Yeah. So there's an element of grit that I apply to the things I do. He's seen me work. I don't play with work life. And also, I try to apply that commitment and discipline to other things that I may not be paid for. So that's how I may be failing, but I fail forward into the next successful thing. So that's how I do.
Thank you. Just wanted to say really quickly, the confidence you see is coming from 15 years, maybe or less than 15 years. And I say this because I have been on the other side of this panel. I love to go to conferences and I love to listen. And sometimes, if you're not careful, admiring people that you see really makes you feel inadequate if you are not careful. Rather than taking inspiration from it, you feel like anything in life. Yeah. So you dear, what have you come to add to life? And I'm sorry, I do not say this to take away from any of what you've shared. I say this to say behind this is 15 years. So be patient with your 1 year after national service. That's true. Because you got time. You get here and you will sit here and you will be talking. You won't remember the first 2 years after national service when you got fired. Right? And that's fact. It's true. And also, I tell people, the secret to my life is honestly laughing at myself. Because when you laugh at your mistakes, no one can make you feel bad. I met him 30 minutes ago. Genuinely, I've forgotten his name. And I will not allow myself to wallow in anger of myself. I will say, hey, I should remember your name. You know how you've forgotten someone's name and you are trying? Just say, hey, I know I should remember your name. Look, you are important. I've forgotten. Please remind me. Right? We get so stuck in trying to hide our mistakes. It paralyzes. We don't want anyone to see we failed. The CEO of 𝐓𝐇𝐄𝐒𝐓 even, we spoke a few months ago and I told him about it. And people told me, but you don't want this level of person to see you in this way. I said, why not? I'm human and he's human. Nobody understands better than someone else the struggles you're going through. So honestly, the secret to overcoming it is to do away with the shame. We honestly, we shame ourselves more than anyone else. We do it, we're like, how could I have failed? How, and we beat ourselves up. If you let it go and you say that, hey, we move forward, and then you lean on your friends, you'll be fine. Honestly, you'll be fine. I think we have one more question, or Aisha, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to add. We're all gonna fail in life at some point, and I love the fact that you talk about, like, it's literally vibes and inshallah every single day. But I'm gonna keep saying this because I think it's really important, is stay true to yourself. And don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Failure brings some levels of like shame, like you mentioned earlier, that causes people to, feel like they're inadequate, and but Charlie, you're all important. Like, you are an important person. The fact that you're not sitting here doesn't make you any less important than we are, right? You're an important person, and I think it's really important. It's really vital for you to stay true to yourself and recognize that your journey is just beginning. Like, there's so much more that you are capable of doing, and when things don't work out, learn to dance in the rain, learn to sing in the rain, learn to, like, literally just sit back when things are not working out and say, I don't feel like doing this right now, and taking care of yourself. And I'm sharing this because burnout is real. And in your quest for success and in your quest for wanting to live a better life and creating a better life for yourself, you're going to find yourself in situations and in moments where literally, like, you're crippled by everything else that you have to do. And if you're not taking care of yourself, that will become the death of you. So I think it's really important. Like, I keep saying this. I don't know why I keep saying that, but I keep saying it because maybe someone needs to hear it, that take care of yourself. You come first. You, individual you, comes first before anything else. The last thing that I'll say is surround yourself with people that allows for you to be yourself and allow for you to be vulnerable. It's so vital that you talk about tribe, because, like, there are people that I can be, like, super, super silly with, and they're like, no, you don't have sense like that, and it's all nice and it's all jokes because it's like they allow me to be me, right? I can't come here and then I won't just start dancing because I don't have that kind of relationship with you guys. But there are people that I can go to and, like, literally just fool around, and those are, like, the most joyful times of my life because I'm being me, right? So just allow yourself to be you and take life one day at a time and take it as it comes. Failure is part of it, really, but so is success. Failure teaches you more than success ever will.
All right. Hi, handsome. Please.
Thank you. I'm Joshua from Utah. So my question is, I think goes to Aisha. As I said that when I was looking for a job, I look at what will fuel my passion. I just love to have quotes. My question is, nowadays young people really look at the money than the passion. Yeah, so then passion is good. Passion will, at the end of the day, will make you who you are. Okay, money is good, but passion will really bring the money to you. Now, how will someone or young guys or young people determine their passion? Thank you.
How do you determine your passion? Damn. For me personally, I determined my passion by the things that actually made me angry. So I looked around and I recognized that in the spaces that I found myself, there were young girls that were being treated differently than young boys. There were people that were speaking to girls or women in a very condescending manner. There were people that were being disrespectful because of the way that someone looked or the way that someone presented themselves. Inequalities made me angry. It made me upset. And that in itself fueled my passion to see a change in that. And I decided for myself that I don't want to have to see my little sister walking into a space and being treated differently or being disrespected because they're a young girl, or mainly because they're a black girl. So that was what started my journey of, creating safe spaces for young girls, ensuring that they had the confidence, they had the ability for them to be able to speak up, for them to be able to share their stories without feeling a level of shame or without having to, limit themselves because of the way they looked or because of the color of their skin or because of their gender. So I found my passion through the things that made me upset. I found my passion through the things that I wanted to change. And the reason why I think, for someone else, it might not necessarily be the things that make them upset. It might be the things that brings you joy, right? But there's a level of emotion attached to the things that you're quote unquote passionate about, because it always comes back to you. And the reason why I'm saying it always comes back to you is because I walked into spaces and I was talked to like, you don't deserve to be here. I walked into spaces and people looked at me like, what is this young black girl? Like, who do you think you are? Why do you think you're here? I walked into spaces where I was sent away because of the color of my skin. So it was things that directly happened to me and directly affected me. And I didn't want to see anyone else go through that. So I think that's how you find your passion. It always starts with you. And that's the reason why, again, staying true to yourself and figuring out who you are is so important, is so vital, because a lot of times the things that you want to change always starts with you. So yeah, that's what I would say. And I think, Emmanuel, you'd have to add something to that, because
Well, I have to. I know Aisha's a good friend. I know her. I think what I was going to ask, for those of us who are not upset, to have our passion. But I also like to. It takes
The all-new multi-purpose skills app is
Of our
supporting
priorities.
young people seeking opportunities to build their dream businesses, gain decent work, and transform their lives. The skills app offers incredible services for next to nothing. These services include youth enterprise services, where we support
books, but having self-reflection.
businesses. Our incubation and acceleration services.
What are you passionate about? It might be triggered by an experience. It might be triggered by a lack of opportunity. It might also be triggered by dreams, things that make you really excited. And it might be triggered by things that others see in you that you didn't acknowledge you had. And so that kind of journey allows you to be able to tackle. And I think for most of us, I think everybody is intelligent in multiple ways, and I think everybody is multi-talented if we're giving the space. So for us, if all of us were given $1 million now, I doubt that you wouldn't be able to find passions that you make time for. So that's how I think. So assume we've given you $1 million. Give yourself reflective time and explore those passions that are heading in you.
Awesome. All right, awesome. I genuinely hope they are feeling as inspired as I am. It's unfortunate that we have to end the conversation, really, but perhaps some of you want to ask questions, but you're feeling a little tired. It's a fantastic opportunity to corner some of our speakers for this evening and ask them some questions that, not corner. It's Friday. You know what? Let's leave it there. Let me.
Sorry, I know Prosper mentioned the hashtag, the SH chat as well. You can also find us on social media. My social media handle is Gamor. You can slide in the DMs. If I don't have the answer, I have an amazing team of people who are brilliant and have broad range of expertise that I probably can't capture. Just wanted to shout out Justice. Justice is also in the back. He's a co-director for RIDI. He's also on my team. So if you have any questions and other things, if I can't, within our network, we'll be more than happy to answer and share with you as well.
Yeah, please. LinkedIn, social medias, Twitter, Instagram, it's all there. The DMs are open as well. So yeah, it's Aisha on Twitter and Instagram, it's Aisha 𝐓𝐄, which is AISHA_AFUA. On LinkedIn, it's my full name, Aisha Addo, AISHA_ADDO. And please feel free to ask the questions.
Yes, if you didn't get any of the names, on Skills Hub by Yota on Facebook. If you're not following, you can follow and you can find them. They've been tagged, so you can, go and do a little sleuthing there. It's hashtag Skills Hub Chat as well. Please let's invite Portia Ajiman to give us her closing remarks. Portia, I saw her busily writing, so I have faith that she enjoyed herself as well.
Thank you, Emelia. Good evening once again. I hope we enjoyed ourselves. Did we? Yeah. Wonderful. Okay, so we'll first and foremost would want to thank all of you for coming to grace the occasion. We are happy you came. We believe that you learned new things and then you are going to use it as we move from here. To Emelia, you're fantastic. Thank you for moderating this. Thank you very much. 𝐒𝐔𝐄𝐒, if it's okay to call you by that. Okay, of Eliu Gift Hub, you are wonderful. Thank you very much for sharing your experiences. Aisha, thank you for also sharing your experiences. To the wonderful team, those of us who watched online, thank you very much for joining us. So as Emelia rightly mentioned, please do go to follow us on all our social media handles. At Facebook, it's Skills Hub by Yota. Instagram, Skills Hub by Yota. LinkedIn, Skills Hub by Yota. You can also send us an email, skillshub@yotaweb.org, skillshub@yotaweb.org. And once again, to remind you that we have fantastic services for you. We have meeting spaces, we have meeting rooms, we do trainings. You can always come here. Let's have a conversation if you want to have an event or anything of that sort. Thank you very much for coming. We wish you a safe journey back home and hope to see you next month, God willing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we are done. So Prosper is giving me this. I'm sorry, I did not understand. Pictures? Ah, all right. Okay, thank you. Pictures. I didn't know. Pictures, I think pictures is not, but we'll get there. So pictures, yes. Are we?
So we need that clap.
Are we coming to the front or yes? All right. So special invitation. You can please join us in front so we take some photos. Those of you joining us online, thank you. I'm sorry if we didn't question in, but did we have any questions online that we ignored? If we did, I'm so sorry. but we will answer them. We'll liaise with Prosper, and perhaps we'll answer them and post them. So that's half a solution. All right, have a good night.
The all-new multi-purpose Skills Hub is supporting young people seeking opportunities to build their dream businesses, gain decent work, and transform their lives. The Skills Hub offers incredible services for next to nothing. These services include Youth Enterprise Services, where we support you to start, grow, and sustain their businesses. Our incubation and acceleration services come with priority access to curated library, mentoring and coaching, as well as business advisory services at the Skills Hub. Youth employment services, preparing youth for the world of work, and innovative supportive services and facilities providing events and meeting spaces with customizable seating capacity of 5 to 65. Co-working spaces for young entrepreneurs who may not have office space to operate. High-speed internet cafe, a copy center, and others. Special packages for the most sought after entrepreneurship skills, employability skills, digital skills, life skills, and financial literacy for individuals and organizations. The Skills Hub is open to every young person who wants to land their dream jobs or contracts. It's time to take charge of your future. Now visit the Skills Hub at Toyota Building at American House Traffic Lights on the Labaleshe Road, East Lagos. The all-new multi-purpose Skills Hub is supporting young people seeking opportunities to build their dream businesses, gain decent work, and transform their lives. The Skills Hub offers incredible services for next to nothing. These services include Youth Enterprise Services, where we support you to start, grow, and sustain their businesses. Our incubation and acceleration services come with priority access to curated library, mentoring and coaching, as well as business advisory services at the Skills Hub. Youth employment services, preparing youth for the world of work, and innovative supportive services and facilities providing events and meeting spaces with customizable seating capacity of 5 to 65. Co-working spaces for young entrepreneurs who may not have office space to operate. High-speed internet cafe, a copy center, and others. Special packages for the most sought after entrepreneurship skills, employability skills, digital skills, life skills, and financial literacy for individuals and organizations. The Skills Hub is open to every young person who wants to land their dream jobs or contracts. It's time to take charge of your future. Now visit the Skills Hub at Toyota Building at American House Traffic Lights on the Labaleshe Road, East Lagos. The all-new multi-purpose Skills Hub is supporting young people seeking opportunities to build their dream businesses, gain decent work, and transform their lives. The Skills Hub offers incredible services for next to nothing. These services include Youth Enterprise Services, where we support you to start, grow, and sustain their businesses. Our incubation and acceleration services come with priority access to curated library, mentoring and coaching, as well as business advisory services at the Skills Hub. Youth employment services, preparing youth for the world of work, and innovative supportive services and facilities providing events and meeting spaces with customizable seating capacity of 5 to 65, co-working spaces for young entrepreneurs who may not have office space to operate, high-speed internet cafe, a copy center and others, special packages for the most sought after entrepreneurship skills, employability skills, digital skills, life skills, and financial literacy for individuals and organizations. The Skills Hub is open to every young person who wants to land their dream jobs or contracts. It's time to take charge of your future.